Welcome to Freedom Forest, guys, the 3-acre edible oasis that we're creating here in the south of England, where we like to try lots of new things and push the boundaries with what we can grow using permaculture and no-dig methods. Absolutely no chemicals, weed killers or synthetic fertilisers, just what nature provides. Today is the 26th of August. We've been getting some amazing crops out of our polytunnels, so we thought we'd take you for a quick update tour to show you how they're looking now. So let's go and take a look. Okay, so starting in tunnel 1, or T1 as we call it, and if you saw our previous polytunnel video, you can see where we explain about these nets and the doors that we have on, so check that out if you haven't already. Okay, so we have got a lot of growth going on here, lots of lush greenery. And like I was just saying, if you haven't already checked out our previous polytunnel video, then it might be really nice to take a look, because then you'll get some kind of idea of how much this has come on in just a matter of weeks. So the Cape gooseberries here, this one has probably more than doubled in size. We've had the odd ripe fruits off of it. You can see all the little lanterns forming up here, and they have these beautiful orange tart fruits in when they come ripe. They are normally quite late in the season, normally around sort of end of September and into October that we're harvesting the Cape gooseberries, which is a really nice time because it's when a lot of your summer crops are starting to finish. The yard-long cucumbers. Now, we find with these that they get going and they crop early, but they often die off early as well. And you can see this plant is still it's still got lots of fruit on it and cropping really well, but it is starting to look not quite its best in places. And we found this last year that they kind of died off all of a sudden. But they are really good because they start cropping before my green cucumbers, and then the green cucumbers get going and the yard-long cucumbers tend to slow down. That's what we find anyway. My New Zealand spinach. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have such a big bush of this again. I haven't had it like this since I used to grow it in my veggie beds in New Zealand. I've tried it a few times here outside and I have got it going, but I've never had it to this sort of size that it is now. So I'm hoping that there's a chance it might even overwinter in the polytunnel here, because it used to in my garden in New Zealand where we only got very light frosts. So I'm going to see if that can carry through. The red Malabar spinach has been really, really good. But it did start to flower quite quickly, which I'm not sure, it's the first time we've grown that, so I'm not sure if it normally would bolt that quickly, or whether it was a result of the super hot conditions that we've had. Now, it's still good to eat, I'm still cooking with it, but it's not so good fresh, I'm finding now, to use in salads, because it's changed in texture and kind of it's gone a little bit sticky almost when you eat it raw. So great to cook with still, definitely grow it again. Peppers and chilies, they're still not as far ahead as I would like them to be, but they are coming on. So again, it will be a late crop with these guys, but we are getting there. And I think these ones are cayenne peppers here. That's a cayenne pepper. And then here we are going to be getting a crop of chickpeas. So they're just starting to dry. They've formed up into their little pods. It won't be a huge harvest, but we will have at least a couple of meals from our own homegrown chickpeas, which is really cool. Now, one thing that is just getting going, which is really, really good, are our aubergines. And this plant here is looking great. I actually harvested, I think, 2 or 3 aubergines from this one just last night as well. And as you can see, that plant is nicely loaded. And I'm getting more used to using and working with aubergines in the kitchen, and we're really enjoying them marinated and then just grilled or roasted this year. So they make quite a good meat replacement in that way if you really flavour them up. So yeah, really loving the aubergines. So there's kind of just a repeat of all the plants as we work down this side, more peppers and chilies, more spinach and chickpeas. Like I say, the peppers are a little bit smaller than I would like, but they're getting there, they're getting there. More aubergines. They just look so beautiful how they hang there, and just, their dark purple glossy skin is just divine. Yeah, so it's all just more of the same. Everything's growing well though. This is my biggest pepper plant, and this should be a yellow pepper here, and this one had actually fallen over yesterday, so we've just tied it up on a string, so that's why it looks a little bit crumpled in places. I've got all my watering containers down the back here. So another yard-long cucumber, and actually last week this plant wasn't looking too good, but it's picked up again and it's got some really good fruits on it. But you can see there the leaves are starting to show some signs of not being quite so happy. I did have a good tidy up of all the cucumbers at the back end of last week, so hopefully got a little bit more airflow into them. So if we come back up through the middle, I have got lots of holy basil, which is just getting going all along here. This was my later crop of holy basil, and it's really kicking in. But what I am noticing is there's a big difference between what's growing well at the top and the bottom of the polytunnel. And interestingly, my tomatoes are growing better from the sort of middle downwards of the polytunnel, but things like the holy basil and the marigolds grow better from the middle to the top end of the polytunnel. And as you can probably tell in here, we're on quite a slope, so that's interesting how obviously the conditions change just as you work through the polytunnel, and how that affects certain things growing in here. So yeah, lots of holy basil though coming on, still going to get some good crops from that. Again, another Cape gooseberry that has quadrupled in size, I think, since we last filmed in here. So this is really cool because, as you may have heard me talking about before, these Cape gooseberries we actually dug up and replanted, heavily root pruned them and replanted. So we weren't actually even sure if they were going to make it through. And they're looking really good, so that is awesome. Tomatoes, so like I was just saying, the tomatoes at the top of the polytunnel haven't been as happy as the ones at the bottom. Now they are a different variety, but yeah, the ones at the top just haven't really cropped much at all this year. Yet the sort of middle section here, which this is actually my favourite tomato that I grow in here, and that's a Cherokee, a purple Cherokee tomato. These ones have been cropping really well, big, almost beefsteak, deep kind of purple red tomatoes, and the flavour from them is out of this world. They taste like you've already seasoned them when you just cut into them fresh. They're absolutely beautiful. So they've been doing really well. I think possibly in the future in this tunnel or in one of the tunnels, I probably will only just grow the Cherokee because nothing else touches them. So they've been doing good. We've been getting some good harvests. Over here we have got our loofahs, and these were quite late when I grew them last year. We have got a few forming up, but I'm not sure whether they will form up and dry in time, because we actually would like the loofahs to use as sponges rather than as an edible crop. So they need quite a long time on the vines to dry. And yeah, again, I planted them about the same time as last year, and we did get some dry fruits from them, but they just seem to be a little bit behind. Maybe that's me, maybe that's just where the weather's changed and it feels like autumn all of a sudden in the mornings now, even though it's not, it's still August. So maybe that's just me getting concerned unnecessarily. Watermelons, oh my gosh, they are coming on beautifully in this tunnel. I've got about 5 or 6 plants, and you only probably do get 1 to 2 watermelons per plant, but the plants are looking healthy. I've got some really big melons coming on. I'll show you the prize melon at the top in a minute. Really good. More yard-long cucumbers. Again, this one sort of slightly towards the middle of the polytunnel, looking really healthy, really good. So the differences we're noticing is really interesting. And this big kind of mess of tangly bad hair day here is cucamelons. Now these are just getting going as well, and I've been thinking, I keep seeing these tiny little ones forming up on all the cucamelon vines that are growing vertically here. I keep thinking, God, they seem really slow, they seem really slow. And then I started having a little forage around down here, and I didn't realise that actually I've got lots of fruits coming on bigger in this big nest of vines down here. So I should really be going through here and starting to harvest some of these cute little baby cucumbers, and you can see why they're called cucamelons, because they look like miniature watermelons, but they taste just like fresh crunchy cucumbers. So cool, give them a try if you haven't, they're really good fun. Another yard-long cucumber, more Cherokee tomatoes here. Then we've got our normal green cucumbers here, and I've just seen one that I've obviously missed harvesting. There's a nice big green cucumber ready to go. And there's a few more here on this plant. So yeah, they're getting going, But yeah, like I say, much slower than the yard longs. Another normal cucumber. So this was my earlier crop of holy basil here, and you can see this is the lot that I'm harvesting from. Yeah, so I'm loving the holy basil. Next year I'm going to grow both sides of the tomatoes all the way up and down this length of the holy basil. I'm going to get drying some more of this hopefully over the next couple of days, because I just love it as a tea. It's so fresh and it just feels like you're drinking something really, really healthy and nutritious as well. So absolutely loving that. I've been having holy basil tea every morning. Yeah, more cucumbers, melons, more of the melons along here. Some prunings from last night. There's a couple of jalapenos squeezed in here, which are getting a little bit smothered by the melons and the cucumbers, but hopefully we'll get a bit of a crop off of those. We had a bumper crop of jalapenos last year, which we've got dried and made into powder and all sorts, so we're still actually using loads of that. So if we don't get so many, that is not too much of a problem this year. And yeah, coming up here, another couple of cucumbers and yard longs. And yeah, the okra. So these have been growing quite nicely. I've used a couple of them, just chopped them up and thrown them in curries, but in all honesty, I haven't had time to do a lot of research into what the best ways to use them are. So if anybody has some ideas or recipes or good ways to use okra, please share them with me in the comments below, because we do always read the comments, but whenever I get computer time, I always forget that that's something I need to look at. But down here is my prize baby watermelon this year. This is the biggest one that I've spotted. There are a few tucked along the back, but this was certainly the first one to form up, and I should imagine it's going to be our first ripe one. And it's huge, it's absolutely huge. We've got a slightly smaller one here, so if I put my hand on it you can see the size differences. And looking forward, really looking forward to harvesting our first fresh watermelon. Probably another week or so on that one, I reckon. And then yeah, I'll just show you these tomatoes up here. So these are the ones that I was saying aren't doing so well, and they just haven't really been fruiting like they should be. Some of the fruits haven't been forming on the trusses. I've given them some comfrey feed to see if that helps them along, but no change really. But they got a bit stunted when we planted them out, and they never really seem to have bounced back. It's a variety that I've not grown before. Maybe won't be growing that one again. So try something different next year, or like I say, just put the Cherokee tomatoes throughout the whole of this tunnel because they are delicious. Okay, into T2. Come on in, cameraman Dan. Okay, so let's start in here with what has not been doing so well. And we had a run of tomatillos here, and they got some kind of like a spider mite on them and just didn't look healthy at all. So we've actually cut them out before it spread everywhere else, because it was spreading through the tunnel. So we've got some empty gaps here. It is getting a little bit late, but it suddenly dawned on me the other day that I might just push some dwarf bean seeds in here and just try my luck at getting a small crop of beans where we've got the strings in place. So yeah, I must get onto that today and see if we can still utilise this bit of space before the season finishes. And if you look here, you can see this Cape gooseberry. This was kind of mostly affected by the spider mite or whatever we had in here as well, and you can see that this one isn't very healthy at all. It's just sort of hanging in there. We've pruned the worst of it back and yeah, taken out the other infected plants, but yeah, so not so great, but you know, always learning. Okay, so more of the yard-long cucumbers, and this has got some that we really need to harvest. They are getting nice and ready. We've had so many cucumbers. We must be harvesting like about 30 a time. We just literally walk around eating cucumbers for breakfast, snacking on them, giving them away to anybody we see, selling a few where we can. It's cucumber overload, particularly with the yard longs. They are just so prolific. Okay, now here, really excited about these. This is the first year we've grown them. Trombone courgettes. They're known by a few different names. That's the easiest one for me to remember. And look at that beautiful, massive courgette there. And I probably talked about this in our last video if you've watched that, but if you haven't, you can have these as courgettes. If you harvest them when they're still green, you use them like you use a courgette, or you can let them mature on the vines and the skin goes darker and harder, and then you can harvest them more as a winter squash. So again, really prolific plants. We've been harvesting heaps off of these, really going good. What we have learned is that you can actually grow them outside. We thought they were going to be a little more tender, so we grew them in the polytunnel, but I've since been speaking to people in our area who actually grow them outdoors in their garden. So next year we'll grow some in the polytunnel and some outdoors as well, I think. So really cool. More trombones down here. We have got a lot of courgette to eat and gift and share this week. So more here. There was another really long one on one of these plants that I saw yesterday that I'm just trying to find. It's hiding somewhere. The fruits are really good at hiding on these plants. Now, this is interesting. Last year in this tunnel we grew pocket melons, and I couldn't get any seed for them this year, and they were really cool, just like a miniature melon. The flesh was quite thin on them, but they had a really nice flavour, and they matured really quickly and really early. Great for lunch boxes, great for kids, but didn't get any seed this year. Now, interestingly, this looks very much like a pocket melon to us, and I'm not sure what Dan thought this one was when he planted it, because he put all the melons into this tunnel, and we probably should have been a bit better at labelling them up. So I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but I don't think it is what it is supposed to be. So how we've ended up with that, I'm not really sure, but it's definitely one that we grew from seed and planted in here, because it's been planted onto the strings. So it's not one that just self-seeded from last year. So yeah, really interested. Not sure how that's come about. What have we got down here? What's this one, Dan? Is this another melon?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hasn't done much, so that one.
Oh, there's a watermelon down here on the floor. Look, just forming up. Now, unfortunately, the watermelons in this polytunnel haven't been as good as the ones in the tunnel next door in T1. And that's because Dan tried an experiment of double planting them in the hole. So we had 2 melons going in each direction per hole. And yeah, they just obviously haven't had enough space and nutrient, because the vines are a lot weaker and the plants aren't as far along in this tunnel. So yeah, another learning curve there. Cape gooseberry here, this one's grown on a lot, so that's awesome, looking really good. And then up through the middle here, we've got all my crazy favourite cherry tomatoes, and I probably should thin these out, but I kind of like things to just do their natural way of growing as much as possible as well. So we will end up with a lot of really small tomatoes, I know, but we will also get a lot of tomatoes from these big bracts of flowers. And these ones always seem to come on quite late, and they are just getting started. And the only downside is you kind of have to root around to find the fruits when they just form these massive bulky flowers right at the bottom. And I've grown this variety for a few years now. They seem to do the same every year, so it's obviously just their growing habit. There's a couple of randoms dotted in here. It was meant to be all the same variety, which, if I'm saying it right, is Riesentrube. It was meant to be all of those in here, but there's a couple of anomalies which have snuck in. Okay, melons. Loads more melons. So we've got 3 different varieties of melons growing vertically along this side of the polytunnel. These ones here are Minnesota midgets, and they should be just about to ripen any time now. And we've got quite a lot of fruits coming on, so we are going to have a good harvest of Minnesota midget. Below them, all this beautiful lush ground cover that you can see is sweet potatoes, and mostly in here I think it's the Burgard variety, which is the orange skinned, orange flesh variety, which you get in a lot of supermarkets. They grew really well for us in the polytunnel last year, so we did the whole of this side in just that variety. This is a melon that we've tried for the first time this year, and I think, if I remember rightly, it's called Woman's Collective or Woman's Collective Farm. And here, look, this one's actually ripe. This one's ready to go. See, it goes this really yellow colour when they're ripe, and yeah, this kind of mottled green yellow when it's ripening. And we had one of those. We had our first ripe melon from those vines a couple of weeks back, and they're quite different from the cantaloupe melons that were growing in here. They are quite crisp. It's a much crisper flesh. Really, really lovely. It's an early Russian melon. So I think, yeah, we'll definitely be growing that one again if we can get more seed. We won't be seed saving this year, unfortunately, because we haven't had the time to pollinate and bag the flowers to make sure that we keep the varieties true to type. So yeah, hopefully I might have saved a few seed for next year, so hopefully we'll be able to grow those again. So chilies, if you want to see some more in-depth detail about the chilies we've got growing along here, we've got lots of different varieties. Dan covered all of that in our previous polytunnel video, so yeah, check that out. But we've got some really interesting varieties. This one's a jalapeno here. We've got a, what's it called, a banana? What's the one down there called, Dan?
Hot banana.
Hot banana, yeah, we've been eating those and they're kind of like a mild chili, those ones. We had some in our dinner last night actually. But these plants are looking much bigger and stronger and healthier than mine, so that's really what mine, the one's in tunnel 1. Dan tends to look after tunnel 2 more and I tend to look after tunnel 1, and that's why if you hear us refer to them as mine and his tunnel, that's why. But really, you know, we both kind of do a bit of both in everything. Okay, so these melons are one of our favourites. We just had 2 ripe from in here last night, and they're a much firmer skin on the outside, but the flesh is really dense and fragrant, really fragrant tasting melon, and they are just beautiful. And last year these were our last ones to ripen, but maybe again it's because they're at the top of the tunnel, maybe they're getting better heat, maybe it's because the season's been different this year, but they are ripening sooner than they were last year. So yeah, we literally, oh my gosh, we had the first one last night and we had some this morning for breakfast as well. Absolutely delicious melon. Now, why am I just suddenly forgetting the name of this melon, Dan?
D. Charente.
D. Charente, thank you. Okay, so yeah, tomatoes, more tomatoes along this side, and then we've just got regular basil as well, interplanted with tomatoes here. We did have a load of the marigolds as well through the middle, but they actually got this spider mite as well, so we've cut a lot of those out, so that's why there's a bit more space between the tomatoes. But yeah, still going with the companion planting and squeezing as much into the space as we can. Another Cape gooseberry up here. Again, this one isn't looking quite so good, but I think it's all been affected by whatever it was that we picked up in here. This one will be fine, it's hanging on in there. Looks like it's going to bounce back. So yeah, that is Polytunnel 2. Now we'll take you for a really quick catch up on what is going on in T3. Okay, so T3, if you saw our previous video, you'll know that we are using this tunnel as just a bit of an overspill tunnel for this year. We do actually have some really big plans for what's happening in here. So check out our previous video. I won't go back over that again. However, everything in T3 is in pots. And with the heat, the extreme heat that we have had this summer, it just hasn't worked well for us in here because we are, we're not on mains water, so we harvest our own water. We have a well, and obviously all these things with the limited rain that we've had have not been in our favour. So we haven't been able to water in here as much as it would need. Really, we would need to be watering in here once to twice a day, and it's been getting 3 times a week really. However, thankfully the things that have survived are all of our beautiful trees in the big pots. They are looking good, and we're really happy about that because, to be honest, they're the most valuable thing to us in this tunnel right now, and it's more just preserving these plants until they reach their final destination for the bigger plans that we have in here when they will actually be going into the ground. But something that is really exciting is our Feijoas here, and what we're noticing is we might just have a couple of Feijoas forming on this bigger tree here. So that will be super exciting to see what happens there. There's another couple of fruits, there's a few dotted around, so it's not going to be a big harvest, but we might get to try some of our own homegrown feijoas. Now, I've actually had feijoas before, having lived in New Zealand. They're really popular there. I'm not a huge fan. Apparently they can taste very different between varieties, but I think it's one of those things, it's a bit like Marmite. I think you either love them or you hate them. I'm always up for trying stuff, so I will be trying them again, but it's something that Dan's always been super keen on, so let's see how we go with the feijoas. But yeah, the trees are looking good. And actually this little tree, you might, if you saw our previous video, you might remember that this one was not looking very good. And that's, is it a date?
Jujube.
Jujube, oh, jujube. This one wasn't looking very good because Dan had just dug it up at the wrong time of the year. But it's really bounced back. It's got a few little scorched leaves on it there.
Yeah, you can see all the bits that died off here, but it's got all this lovely new greenery now, so.
Yeah, lovely.
Coming back.
So you might remember that we had a lot more pots of sweet potatoes in here, and we left all of the really big pots in here because they would retain water more, but it was getting so hot in here that we actually had to take as many of the pots of sweet potatoes out because they would have all just died. So I'll show you where they are in just a moment. But yeah, there's a couple of tomatoes, Cape gooseberries, they have just been getting scorched. However, things have cooled off a bit now, and so these guys might well bounce back. They're going to survive, if nothing else, so we will be able to transplant them hopefully into the ground somewhere for next season and preserve them, if nothing else, just for then. So all is not lost. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess in here otherwise, but stick with us, we have big plans for this place, which we are really looking forward to sharing another time. Millie Moo? You're on camera, Mills. Okay, so here are all the sweet potatoes that we did have in pots in Tunnel 3, in T3. All of these are a purple variety called Molokai Purple, which I really love to cook with. Beautiful deep purple flesh and skin, and so I really wanted to save these, so we got them out of the polytunnels because they were just getting scorched. But I have to say, I'm still not convinced about growing them in the buckets, in the smaller tubs, because they just take so much care. When you're growing on a smaller scale, obviously, and you've just got a few things to look after, then pots I know can be great, but for us right now, we just haven't been able to give them the amount of water or feed or care that things in pots really need. So hopefully we will get some kind of a harvest from these sweet potatoes. I really do hope so, because I just love cooking with them. But yeah, for us, not sure if pots is the right thing. It's not been a great year to try it though, with the crazy heats that we've had here in the UK. So we will give all of these kind of things another go. So yeah, some here, we've got another bunch of them up here, a couple of watermelons which aren't looking so good there that were in the tunnels. We thought we'd bring them out, see how they go. But yeah, that's it. So that is our polytunnel update tour for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you're missing Dan, he will be back on camera again soon. He's just been really busy, tied up with some super exciting projects. He'll hopefully be bringing you more videos soon. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video today. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel and click the bell notification button to make sure you know whenever we bring new videos out, because this really helps us and it means that you won't miss our videos. We'll catch you here again soon. Peace and plants.